Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular May board meeting. Tonight is May 3rd, 2021. To start off, I would like to ask Ms. Cannon if you would please call the roll of the members that are present.
Ms. Hastings.
Here.
Ms. Higgins. Mr. Parker. Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
Mr. Weinberg.
Here.
Ms. West.
Here.
And I am here. Did we see Mr. Parker online?
See his name.
I see his name.
I've sent him a chat as well.
Mr. Parker, are you online?
But he's on mute, I think.
Mr. Parker, can you unmute yourself?
Well, maybe he'll join us in a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And Mr. Dunn, if Mr. Parker calls in to try to get in, will you please try to facilitate that? I don't see his name, but I don't see him in right now. And he had indicated that he might not be able to attend tonight's meeting. Before we get into the approval of the agenda, I would like to say something on behalf of myself and I think of the board as well. This is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we'd like to extend our thanks to the teachers, the food service personnel, the custodians, the counselors, the administrators, the nurses, the bus drivers, the tutors, the paras, the volunteers, and everyone else that I may have omitted in this statement, as for all of the amazing help that you have provided to our students during this challenging year. Your efforts are recognized by the board and much appreciated, as well as by the parents and, of course, the students. I just wanted to say thank you. So with that, I would ask that we move on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any motions to amend the agenda for this evening? Not seeing any, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as it is printed.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Walsh. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, then we will move through with our agenda. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the board minutes. Tonight we will be looking to approve our board work session from March 8th, the board work session, and this would be work sessions on the budget, of March 29th, the special board meeting of March 31st, the regular monthly meeting of April 5th, and the special board meeting of April 12th. Are there any modifications, amendments, or changes to any of these minutes? Yes, Mr. Weinberg.
There are no changes, but I just wanted to highlight a portion of the March 8th budget work session number 8. The board voted on a statement about Senate Bill 130 school vouchers, and there will be a state budget hearing tomorrow where the language of Senate Bill 130 is inside the state budget. So just wanted to flag, if anyone's looking through, that the Concord School Board made a statement regarding Senate Bill 130.
Thank you, Mr. Weinberg, for bringing that to the attention of everyone. Are there any other changes or modifications? Not seeing any. I would look for someone to move that we approve all of the minutes that I listed prior.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hastings. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Walsh. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. With this, I will move on to the recognitions reports. I believe that our student representatives are up first. So, Alice and Janita.
Good evening, members of the board. We are happy to share some exciting events from over the past month and into this month. Looking back into last month, on April 21st, the National Honor Society induction was held for current juniors. NHS is defined by the pillars of scholarship, service, leadership, and character. Class of 2022 members applied and were selected based on their grades and representation of these core values. We are very excited to see what these new introductees do throughout the organization.
Also, at the end of April, Gina and I, as well as Ms. Pally and Ms. Fisher-Anderson, decided to pause the majority of our bullying policy focus group for the time being. We determined that with the transition back into 5 days a week, full in-person learning, and the school year coming to a close, it is not the best time to gather student feedback. However, we will continue to use the rest of the school year to organize the feedback we already have received and start working on ways to apply it to the policy. Next year, focus groups, or the method deemed best to hear student voice at the time, can begin again. Regardless, Janita, Ms. Pally, and Ms. Fisher-Anderson will be here to help ensure additional insight can be provided by students and further improvements to the policy can continue to be made.
Now in May, tomorrow, Tuesday, May 4th, the high school is hosting a vaccine clinic for all students who are 16 and up. The second shot will take place Tuesday, the 25th. We hope that all eligible students will sign up, helping to ensure additional safety for themselves and others inside and out of school.
In other additional news, AP exams will begin on May 18th and be held through May 28th. Tests this year can either be paper or digital, depending on the subject. We also want to extend our congratulations to the 2021 Division I Scholar Athlete Award recipients.
Finally, and although we know it will be discussed later in the meeting, we would like to take this opportunity to express our interest in opposing House Bill 544. This bill would take away a very important aspect of learning and growing inside of schools. Diversity and conflict will always be present in our world. Learning how to understand it, learn from it, and make concrete changes around racism, sexism, and more is an important part of our curriculum and roles as members of the district, Concord, and the society as a whole. Thank you.
I also just wanted to echo, on behalf of both of us, what Mr. Richards said about Teacher Appreciation Week.
Thank you very much. I wish everyone luck on their upcoming exams, both AP and other, and would like to say congratulations to those National Honor Society inductees that you mentioned. That's great news. With that, Superintendent?
Well, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be back in, and I asked both Alice and Janita how their week went, and I got positive, so I'm happy to hear that. I'm going to just go through a couple things that are in your packet first, and the first one being the general assurances for 2021-22 school year. Now, I know that you'll probably say, gee, we just passed those, we approved them, but I have to do them every year. This one is in particular to our entitlements. That would be Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, Perkins grants, so I just wanted to let you know, Jim has already reviewed them, and I have too, but I do and will need a motion that they were brought to the school board and for your review, and as you know, they were all in your packet. So I don't know if you want to wait till the end, Mr. Richards, and do it at the end, or we can do it now if you'd like.
Well, I've read through them, and as you said, and I will leave it to the remainder of the board. Would you like to approve these now, or would you like to wait, read through them? Approve them now?
I'll make.
Okay, then let's. I will entertain a motion then.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Weinberg to approve the general assurances. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Ms. Hastings. All those in, is there discussion? Does anyone have any discussion with regards to these? They're in the packet. Not seeing any. I will call a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh, welcome, Ms. Higgins. We're happy to have you with us.
Thank you.
Do we need to go to a roll call vote now because Ms. Higgins has joined us? So I believe we do. So Ms. Cannon, would you call the roll on this vote? We're happy to have Ms. Higgins join us.
I am very happy to have Barb join us. Ms. Hastings?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Mr. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg?
Aye.
Ms. West?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay. Ms. Pass, thank you very much.
Thank you. The second item that was listed in your agenda was just information on the last day of school. As you know, when you approved the school calendar for the 2021 school year, your last day was scheduled for Wednesday, June 16th. But this year, we had 2 days in which we had one, which was an emergency day when the district did not have enough staff to operate, and the second was a snow day, which we did not have any remote learning. So we do have 2 days to make up. So I am recommending to you that those 2 days be made up, and that on June 18th, which would be a Friday, would be the last day of school for our students.
Okay. I believe that would be a motion as well to be approved. Would anyone like to make the motion to make the last day of school June 18th?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms.
Barb.
Higgins. Thank you, Ms. Higgins. Is there a second? I will second it. So moved by Ms. Higgins and seconded by myself. Is there any discussion? Yes, Ms. Hastings.
So the emergency day, as I'm thinking, is the vaccination day?
That's correct.
And how are we doing with hours in?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I was so careful about it. And of course, given the emergency orders and the executive order, rather, by the governor, we want to be very careful of our hours. As you know, that we either need to do 180 days or we do 990 and 945, 990 at the secondary level and 945 at the elementary level. This keeps us in line with our hours.
And without that day, we would not meet the hour requirement?
I'm going to turn to Donna. We were very close in the hours when we last did it. We were only over by a small amount. So this really does fulfill all of the days and hours. Mm-hmm. There is a little extra. I mean, it's not significant, but we are over a little bit.
Yes, Ms. Walsh.
Is there a dispensation we can give seniors for their prom?
Right. Seniors don't have the same number of days. They are allowed to do 175.
Okay.
So they will have less days. Their prom is on Thursday
night, yeah.
and their graduation is on Saturday. So they have a pretty full agenda, but yes, they have less days, and that's part of the rules around seniors. For the number of days, it's 175.
Does that mean they don't have to get up for school at 6:30 the next morning after their prom?
That's right. That's right. So seniors are exempt.
Ms. Richards was nodding emphatically.
Yeah, typically we have the last week is senior week, and we don't have to go to classes that final week of school.
Other questions or items of discussion? Yes, Ms. Hastings.
I'm just wondering, being that it's Teacher Appreciation Week and that we have acknowledged several times how hard students and teachers have worked this year, and administrators, if it wouldn't be worthwhile to consider making the last day Thursday rather than Friday as an appreciation for all of the changes that everybody went through, if we're not in danger of not meeting our requirements.
Superintendent, where would we be in response to that question with regards to the hours, I believe, is what we're
I believe we
obligated
would
by?
be fine. When we did the calculations, we knew we were close, but we would still be fine, given that there wouldn't be any other days. We were concerned when we were doing these hours that we still had another month and a half, and given things that go on this year, we wanted to be careful. But that one day would not change the hours. We would still meet the number of required hours, both at secondary as well as elementary.
And I only suggest that is because the reason the school was canceled was because the teachers became sick from the vaccine that we asked them.
Well, we didn't charge them for that day. They didn't take no days were taken from the staff. It was like a no day. We didn't charge them sick
Well, we
days
are
or
kind of
anything.
charging them though if we make them make it up.
Here's the only issue with that. They do have a contract for a certain number of days, and that would bring them to the end. On the 18th, brings them to the 183 days for your teacher contract. So I'm just giving you all the information.
May I ask a question? Were the teachers charged a sick day for that day?
No.
Mr. Weinberg?
I didn't think it was fair to charge them a sick day, given that they, as Brenda just alluded to, they went and had the vaccine so that they could get back to work, and I really appreciated that. No one imagined that 95 people would be ill, but all you have to do is look around and see it happening everywhere else, that people are not feeling well when they get their first or second shot. So I didn't think it was fair to charge anybody anything, so I just dismissed it as a day.
Okay. Mr. Weinberg?
I would love to hear what the student representatives think about this. Just thoughts.
So we've heard different things from CHS about when we're ending school. So obviously that can shift. We've heard like seniors can leave on the 4th and then like other people on the 11th. So I know that's obviously different and that hasn't been like totally defined. I would say that students probably would like to get out as early as we can, just being completely honest, but if we need the required hours, then we need the required hours, is I guess what I thought. Do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, so like Alice said, we've been given different things. So if we reach competency level, we're able to, so I think seniors get out the 4th or something. Yeah, that's what we've heard. And then for juniors and I think other underclassmen, if they've reached competency by a certain point, they can get dismissed on the 11th of June. And if you haven't reached your competency yet, then you're going to stay back and just work on that one-on-one with your teachers a little more to make sure you're really caught up and that we're being supported as students. And so, like Alice said, I think if kids would like to get out, and obviously teachers would love to get out too. But if we need the hours, we need the hours.
Of course, I understand that. I understand that, and I'm just trying to explain that teachers have a contract for 183 days. I absolutely appreciate all they've done. And I believe that every day that we have with children is important. And how that looks and what we do with our kids in those last days are important. And so as the instructional leader of the school district, I always support being with the kids. So, but I'm obviously open to you are the decision makers, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I would say that it's this year especially having people in school as much as they can is great, although I do understand the seniors' position on this. Especially those that are right
Think of the
here.
larger district, not just the seniors. Obviously, we just are graduating, but
Yes.
we have a whole district to think about. So,
Further discussion. Will someone please give me an indication if Ms. Higgins raises her hand or indicates that she needs to? Because I can't really see over my shoulder very well.
There she is.
Thank you. More discussion? Anything else? We do have a motion to set the date as the 18th. So without any further discussion, we need to vote on that motion. So, not seeing any. Ms. Cannon, would you call that? And the motion is to set the last day of school as June 18th, 2021.
Ms. Hastings?
Nay.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Mr. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg?
Aye.
Ms. West?
Nay.
And I vote aye. So it is 7-2. The motion passes.
Thank you very much. Superintendent, what else do you have
Yeah,
for us?
I'm going to, no,
Sorry.
6-2,
6 to
yeah.
2.
'cause
Thank you
David
for that
didn't-
clarification.
Right, and I was
We're
just
quick
thinking
doing
that. So I want to, if I could go,
Excuse me, I see David's name here. Is David not speaking? I see his name.
Yeah, Mr. Parker, can you hear us? And are you here?
Yeah, Barb?
Okay, I saw his name. I just want to make sure.
No, thank
he
you,
was
thank
here,
you,
now
Ms.
he's
Higgins.
gone. Yeah.
We're not sure that if he's, he indicated that he wasn't going to be able to make the meeting, but if he can, Mr. Parker, can you reach out to Mr. Dunn and let us know, and we'll incorporate him in.
Perfect.
Thank you.
okay, so I'm going to move on. I wanted to talk a little bit, a number of people have asked me about the SRO task force, as well as the information around student discipline and programs around that issue in the district. So I just wanted to kind of give you an update on the process, and so we are in the midst of starting to set and bring together a committee. We want the sense for this committee should involve obviously our students, staff members, parents, community, and administration. Now, I want to be able to have a recommendation and based on your motion to have something ready for you for when you do your budget, of course, and what that would mean. So we're starting together. I have received two letters of intent from folks, both parents, and I will be sending out a letter to the community and to the families to see if there's any other people that would like to join us on this task force. The second piece that we're pretty much done with is all the data collection, which will be a part of this. So we'll be looking to review all of the data. Now, that isn't just on suspensions and detentions and office referrals. It will also include things like daily attendance. It will also include information like students who are participating in after-school activities, as well as co-curricular activities, including the sports program, as well as those student numbers in programs like our language programs and our AP classes. So I think all of that information is really important as we examine this issue.
Thank you, Superintendent. My only comment would be that I'm sure you just inadvertently didn't mention that a school board would be participating.
Right, we
in
would
this
have
as
a
well?
school board member on that
Thank
committee also, thank you. I
And
did.
if,
I did.
It's just
Yeah.
a little
I think
slip.
it's important, thank you. I'm sorry
So
I missed that.
if a community member or parent or student would like to participate, how would they be able to indicate that to you?
They just
Should
send me
send
an
to
email.
you?
That they sent me an email at kmurphy@sau8.org, and I've already responded to a couple of folks.
Thank you. I hope that we have, I hope we get several more from participation from our school as well as our greater community.
Right. And a couple of things have changed, if I could. You know, Chief Osgood informed me that Officer Ryder has been promoted to a detective position in the Concord Police Department. So he will be leaving his position at the high school at the end of the school year. And as a result of that, the high school folks have always been involved in the process of screening candidates for the position. So I know that Mr. Reardon has already formed a committee made up of students and staff and parents to begin that process of screening applicants and just looking and see who would be the best fit for the high school in taking on that role. So there'll be more to come on that. Obviously, you know, this person does not work for the school department. The SRO works for the police department, but we work in collaboration on that. So that's the other piece that I wanted to share with you. I'm not sure everyone knew that Officer Ryder had been promoted, which was nice to hear.
So Superintendent, we certainly congratulate Detective Ryder for his promotion. Where would we find a list of those who are on Mr. Reardon's committee?
I'll have that. We'll have to have that posted. Mike and I haven't really we only discussed the positions that we wanted on the committee, and so we'll get that posted for you. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yep, certainly. Mr. Weinberg?
Have there been any alterations to the SRO task force, discipline task force, given the departure of the current SRO and the incoming new one?
Can you repeat that, John?
Has there been any changes to the planning of the SRO task force, a school disciplinary task force, given this new development?
Not to my knowledge, no. We haven't changed up anything. I mean, we're going to continue, and whether he's there or somebody else is there, it's still that position, and that's something that you as a board will have to deal with come your budget in next early fall.
Thank you.
Kind of wanted to, if you're okay with that one, I'm going to move on to an update on our returning to full-time and in-person. I think the week before the April vacation, I thought it went very well. That it wasn't perfect. We had a couple little glitches. One of them was transportation. We asked parents, and I think I've said this to you before, to help us out with bringing the kids to school, which was awesome. They did. We were all out. All of the folks at central office were out on site for the first few days of school so that we could get a sense of it. And we had a lot of parents who brought their youngsters to school, which helped us out because it kept the numbers on the bus reasonable so that we could do the 3-foot distancing, one to a seat on the school buses, and we could keep our runs going. But we did have some traffic tie-ups, and so we were all out and about. We had some people were worried because they saw police officers at the elementary schools. Well, it wasn't because there was anything bad going on. It was because we used them to help us with the traffic. But I tell you, the principals and the administrators and the teachers and all the folks that are out on duty did a fabulous job at getting people in and out. In one of the schools out at Millbrook, they were keeping time, how long it took them to get everybody in and how long it took them to get them out and into cars. And again, it depends on the age. You know, when you're bringing little ones in kindergarten, they don't just open the door and jump out of the car. They have to come out of it usually out of a car seat and buckles and all that kind of, so it's a little bit more complex. But I think we did okay with it, and I can't say enough about the parents who stepped up to help us with the transportation issues. We think it really helped out. The other little glitch we had was we had ordered tables. We needed, remember I said we would space out our cafeteria? And we used different places in the building to have lunch. Well, we ordered tables, because wouldn't you know, Murphy's Law. The tables came in the wrong size. They had to be shipped back, and so we were minus a few tables out at Runlet, and so that caused some concern because the kids had their lunch in the gymnasium on the floor, and but we corrected that right away. The tables were on their way in a truck, and they were there the next day, and we had it. I think the next day they used chairs, and then on Wednesday they had their tables. So appreciate everybody's patience, and especially the kids who kind of went with the flow as we moved to different spaces for cafeteria. But I think back in today it was really quiet, and I heard good things from our principals and administrators, so people did a lot of work. I'll speak to that in the end before I close, but everybody did a lot of work, and I'm very appreciative of it. Just to give you some idea about what next steps are, we're looking at on Wednesday night, we will be presenting to the instructional committee the summer programs, all of the programs across the district. We have a huge number of programs for the youngsters. Some of them are academic, some of them are recreation and fun times, and some of them are arts and entertainment kind of things with music and PE and art. And so it's a good mix of activities for the youngster. We also have things for the students, I call it boot camp, maybe getting some extra help in math and in language arts and spending some time doing that. We also have our 8th graders who will be doing a week up at the high school. As 9th graders, they'll break them up into small groups, get them accustomed to the high school. So there's lots of things going on. We'll report out fully to the instructional committee on Wednesday. And then where we're at is we have to develop a plan to re-enter in the fall. So we're now working on that plan. What will our school look like in the fall? Obviously, I hope that it looks like it was today, that everybody's back in, but we also learned a lot. We learned a lot from this pandemic. We learned what was good and what worked, and we learned what perhaps didn't work. But we also know that COVID-19 was the great disruptor in terms of our work. And so we learned about remote learning and how it was effective for some students, and how can we make sure that we integrate some things for students, especially students who may struggle with a health issue or in the hospital, how we can use remote to make sure that they're connected to their peers. So we'll be working on that. One of the things that is required as we develop our plan will be to reach out to all of our stakeholders. That'll be our parents and our staff and our students about what they would like to see. And I suspect, knowing the students and staff and the parents, will have some great suggestions for us as we develop this plan. I'd like to get that done and out by June so that we make sure that everybody knows what's happening in the Concord School District come next August, end of August, beginning, I think it's the first day of September. So we'll keep you posted on that. The last, before I have a closing remark, is the Runlet feasibility study project is kind of moving along. I know that you had a presentation right before the holiday, the April vacation, around some work with staff and students, as well as the community. And right now, we have scheduled through June 8 meetings to address staff beginning on May 4th, tomorrow. We have a 3-hour session with some teachers over at Runlet. And then on the 10th, we're going to take a little bus tour to Saugus, and we're going to see a new middle school down there and see what new construction looks like. And then we have some more meetings with staff at Runlet. And then we have 2 meetings with the community. The first one is on June 8th, which will be in the early evening, 6 o'clock. And then we decided to have another second one on a Saturday morning. We think that so many people work, and it's so hard sometimes to get to meetings. That way would give us time, too, to let the community see the building. Take a walk through it, tour the building, and then we'll meet and talk about the needs. And we'll wrap that up with a facilities committee meeting on June 14th. So we have a very busy month or so, 2 months. But the project is lots of discussion, lots of interest, and so we're optimistic, but we need to get a lot of feedback from all of our stakeholders.
The community meeting, June 12th? Is that the Saturday meeting?
Yes?
You didn't give the date.
Oh, I thought I was given some special
So I was
date.
just trying to figure
No, I thought I was given some special date. Yes, June 12th at 10 o'clock, Saturday morning. I'm sorry.
And Superintendent, these will be posted on our website?
Yeah, all of these will be posted.
Thank you.
I wanted to run them by you tonight and see what reaction you had. But I think that this is a good start to getting the discussion going. And as you know, we've talked with the Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Dunn and I did a couple of times. We've also talked to City Council. So we'll continue to have those discussions with folks.
Are there any questions for the superintendent?
My last comment for tonight is that I want to reiterate what you said, Jim, that, this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I wanted to take a moment to thank and recognize all of the teachers for their efforts over the last 13 months. We have asked a lot of them. We've asked them to pivot back and forth. We asked them to do things that using technology and cameras and just new apps that they had to learn in a very short time. I think that unless you're in there and your boots on the ground, so to speak, you just don't ever realize how many challenges they face. And I always say to somebody, just imagine taking care of 20 kindergarten or first graders in your house on a Saturday afternoon. Think about how the teachers and how well they've done to be able to work with the youngsters and still come out at the end where students were able to achieve during this very difficult time. But it takes a team to do that, and I don't want to forget. I know it's Teacher Appreciation Week, and I so appreciate everything that they did. And I know the city is very fortunate to have the teachers that you have. This city is very fortunate. But it also takes a team, and that team includes the folks that Jim mentioned tonight, the nurses, the educational assistants, the tutors, the administrative assistants, our principals. Our principals work day and night. I mean, they work weekends to make sure that their schools were ready for their students. And our custodians always were so, you go in those buildings now, they're so clean. The floors are sparkling. They're constantly cleaning. You can't say enough. And then, of course, our staff in the food service department who prepared bagged lunches, hot lunches, you name it, whatever the kids needed or wanted, they were there to prepare something nice for the kids. So we're very fortunate, and I am very honored to be a part of the team that made it through these last 13 months. And I hope we stay together like this, but we'll see, right? So anyway, that's kind of my closing comment.
Thank you, Superintendent. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we are at our first public comment session. This will be public comment for agenda items only. Please remind you to conform with our policy, which limits you to 5 minutes. And we will take both comments both in person as well as remote. Mr. Dunn, you look just about ready, so I will ask for any in-person comments to please do exactly that. Raise your hand, and Mr. Dunn will bring the microphone to you. Please state your name and where you're from.
Hello. Hello, Schweiger. And I'd like to say a couple of things about Rundlet, which is on the agenda tonight. The first thing is, several years ago, probably before most of you were on the board, and they built the 3 new schools, I suggested maybe that Broken Ground and Millbrook could share a principal, because they're on the same lot and they're both elementary schools. And so I don't know, that's 700 kids. That's too many for one principal. But now I hear we're talking about maybe having the 5th grade also at the new middle school. And now you're talking about a school with 1,400 kids in it. And I'm even less worried about the principal handling the 1,400 kids than the fifth graders being in this huge school with 1,400 kids. And I know many years ago it was thought that maybe we should have 2 junior high schools in Concord, and I think you need to seriously consider, if you're going to put the 5th grade in the middle school, then maybe you need 2 middle schools, and that needs to, work its way through the process. You can't suddenly decide that at the end. And the second thing I want to say has to do with impact fees. I don't know what the number that you're working with today is, but I think a seat in the school costs something like $60,000. And so if people are building new homes and adding more kids to the school district, we need to think about, shouldn't we be collecting money from these where we're having to build this new middle school? And so let's say a housing unit might have to pay $10,000 as an impact fee for every new housing unit. And the developers say, oh no, that's going to raise the cost. And the answer is it'll raise the cost of the developer, but it's not necessarily going to raise the cost of the buyer, because the developer is going to sell that house for as much as they can. And if you want to talk about whether I'd rather the extra $10,000 go to the school district to keep taxes down or to go to the developer, I say let's have the school district have the impact fee and get some of our money for the new middle school out of developers instead of soaking it all to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schleicher, for your comments. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak tonight? Not seeing any additional public comment in the auditorium. Mr. Dunn, do we have anyone waiting online?
So far, no.
I know there's a slight delay, so we'll wait a few seconds, minutes until to see if anyone pops up. If you would like to make a public comment on agenda items, please indicate to Mr. Dunn by raising your hand that you'd like to make a comment. Mr. Dunn?
So far, no.
Anybody?
Nope. Raising of the hand.
Okay, with that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is personnel. Mr. Prince.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, tonight we have a couple of leaves of absence requests that I'd like for your approval. One is a special ed teacher at Abbott Downing School who has requested to take the year off as unpaid. And another one is from the science teacher at Concord High School, Mr. Harrison, requesting a 40% leave in order to assume another position in the district as a STEM coach.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve these leaves of absence? Motion made by Ms. Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Weinberg. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. Ms. Cannon, will you call our vote tonight, please?
Sure. Ms. Hastings. Aye. Ms. Higgins.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg.
Aye.
Ms. West.
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Dunn, have we been able to hook up with Mr. Parker?
Mr. Parker, can you hear us?
I see him on, but no, he's
Right,
unmuted.
every once in a while, I just want to check in if we're voting, whether Dave can hear us. Okay.
Thank you.
8-0, they are approved.
Thank you, Ms. Cannon.
I get the list here.
Superintendent?
Thank you. This evening, I would like to place some names in nomination. It's on the Central Office Administrator nomination list for you tonight. And I'd like to start out with Donna Pally. Donna has announced her retirement. And as I think about the work that Donna does, I have asked Donna to stay on as we go through a transition time where the district will be working to try to find a replacement that would fulfill the duties that Donna has taken on over her years of service in the district. And so with that, I would ask that you accept her retirement, but also that it allows me to be able to have Donna stay on until we find a suitable replacement and the transitions are done in the district. You might ask, what's the timeline on that? I would imagine it would be around September, end of September, sometime in that time during the next school year. The second, and my understanding is I will do these as a slate unless you have some other comments you want to make. I'd like to also place the name of Matthew Cashman as Director for Facilities and Planning, Terry Crotty, our Director for Transportation, Jack Dunn, our Business Administrator, Karen Fisher-Anderson, who has assumed the duties of School Safety Compliance Officer, Pamela McLeod, our Director for Technology, Donna Reynolds, our Food Service Director. And I'm also here tonight to let you know that Mr. Prince has announced his retirement. And again, both like Donna, Larry holds a very important position in the district. Larry and I have discussed this at length. We also have a HR manager who will be leaving us in the late fall, and we felt it would be best if we could maintain Larry through the process of hiring, the transition, and then at the end of December, Larry would, that would be his last time in the district. So with that, I would ask, I am making the motion making the recommendation to ask that you accept this slate as I presented it.
Superintendent, the last name on our slate here is Donna Reynolds.
Donna Reynolds, Food Service.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. Are there any questions or discussion for the superintendent? Do we have a motion to accept the slate?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Weinberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Smith, who I heard before Ms. Walsh, but thank you both. Much appreciated. Is there any further discussion? In that case, Ms. Cannon, will you please call the vote by roll?
Yes. Sorry, technological issues. Ms. Hastings.
Aye.
Ms. Higgins.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg.
Aye.
Ms. West.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
So your slate passes, and we would like to thank Mr. Prince and Ms. Pally for their service and wish them well in their next endeavor in their lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Prince, CEA nominations?
Yes, I have CEA nominations for you here for your approval. Megan Birch as an English teacher at Concord High School at $89,937. That's his master's plus 30 track step 14. That's a 40% position. Frank Harrison as the STEM coach, 40% at $34,875. Allison Holt, a science teacher at Concord High. This is a master's step 12 position, $80,178. Julie Britton, a special education teacher at Runlet Middle School, $58,919. That's a bachelor's step 6. Jessica Heath, a classroom teacher at the elementary level, bachelor's step 2, $48,428. And Hannah Hoyer, elementary classroom teacher, master's track step 7 at $66,158. And Sarah Schreier, a special education teacher at Broken Ground School at $76,650. That's a master's step 11 position.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to accept to approve the CEA nominations?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Smith. Second? I will second it. Yes, discussion, Ms. Walsh.
The last two teachers, so these were teachers we didn't offer contracts to in April because of reduced enrollment, and now, as we know, retirements, we're keeping them. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I've not got a location yet, but they will have contracts for next year.
Right. So at this point, are there any teachers that we were not offering contracts to that we're still not offering contracts to?
Not because of that reason, no.
Okay.
No, they're all good.
Okay.
Other questions or discussion? Not seeing any. Ms. Cannon, can you call the roll for the vote, please?
Yes, this is on approving the CEA recommendations.
Correct.
Ms. Hastings.
Aye.
Ms. Higgins.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg.
Aye.
Ms. West.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you. And the last item on the agenda for personnel is our annual requests for your approval to hire during the summer months. Administration, typically it comes under the gun because folks are under contract, and when we interview somebody that we would like to be in a position to offer them a contract. We certainly will bring their name to you as a confirmation for the summer months. But again, that's our request for you to allow us to hire during the summer months.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. I will make a motion to grant permission to hire for summer 2021, as we have done in the past summers. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Ms. Hastings? Oh, by Ms. West, sorry. I didn't turn over quick enough to see. So moved by myself and seconded by Ms. West. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. Ms. Cannon?
Ms. Hastings.
Aye.
Ms. Higgins.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg.
Aye.
Ms. West.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. With that, we move on to the reports from our committees. First report is Instructional Committee, report from the meeting of April 7th. Ms. Higgins?
Actually, because I'm sitting in the back of the car on Henry Hutchinson Park today, I think Brenda's going to summarize the meeting. I don't have any notes or anything. Just a crying baby in the backseat with me.
I certainly appreciate that, Ms. Higgins. Thank you.
Yeah,
Ms.
Jack says
Hastings,
hi.
Ms. Hastings, would you be willing to summarize the Instructional Committee report for us?
Sure.
Thank you.
Just got to find it here.
Take your time.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you. Way in there. So the instructional committee met on April 7th, and present were Barb, myself, Pam Walsh, and Kate West. Also present board members were Gina Cannon and Jim Richards, and district staff present were Kathleen Murphy, Donna Pally, and Michael Reardon. The meeting was called to order at 5:34, and we talked about, well, first we were treated to a presentation by Concord High students and staff about independent study experience, which was wonderful. Very talented students who were able to share their progress and their excitement about their learning, and it was wonderful to see. Even during these difficult times, these students did a great job, and it was fun to listen to. It was a fun part of the job. And then there was a discussion about the return to school for additional in-person learning on April 19th. Let me check here. Spring learning models were presented by Superintendent Murphy that we're rolling out the back to school 5 days a week plans that seem to be going very well, happily. And then the meeting was adjourned at 7:15. Oh, we voted unanimously to recommend to the full board that the schools do open 5 days a week in person, which they have done. That was it.
So I guess I have a question that's related to opening, if I could, Superintendent. We did open, and we have tents that are in our schools that were put in there for outside classrooms. How are they working out, and can you give us any, is there something that we need to be attentive to help facilitate that?
No, I think they're working out. We have a couple of tents at every building except at the high school. There's a lot of, we encourage the youngsters to be outside, weather permitting. We had some good weather for a few days. It's been a little chilly, I think, but hopefully as the weather warms up a little bit and it stays dry, we'll have them back out. But the students love being outside, especially the young ones. So, and it's a great place to eat lunch, do those kinds of activities. So they're actually accessing those. That's something that we're going to think about for the fall too. They like being outside. Instruction can go on outside. The band has been outside, the chorus kids, and they can distance a little bit better for their practices. So I'm pleased with it, and I hope that we continue it. I think I think in my remarks I talked about what we learned and what worked, and I think we need to really play into this outdoor education and how we can utilize it for our instruction.
Thank you. Superintendent, will we be using them during our summer programs that we have planned?
Yeah, great point, Jim. Thank you. They'll be left up. The tents will be up all summer, right into the fall, right through November, right?
Okay. And is there anything that we need to appropriate money or to adjust to make those more student-friendly, teacher-friendly? And are we getting any feedback from teachers as to anything they need in addition?
Well, the one issue that we had was the internet access, the access points. If you were in a certain place near the building, you had no problem accessing the internet. So one of the things that we asked Pam McLeod to work on, our tech director, was to increase the ability for the students to access internet while they're outside. So she's working on that. There'll be new wiring and all that. That project was scheduled for this summer. We will continue to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other?
By the way, just to point, everything that was paid by our federal funds, by the way, our SFR funds, the rental costs of those tents.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Hastings.
Do we, have there been any problems with insects yet?
Well, that's a good point. We know that this is the season for mayflies, I guess, and so we put Mr. Cashman on that. And I think he had a meeting today He did. He had the meeting with the bug guy, and that's all I can tell you. I don't know the results of that meeting, but there are certain areas in where our schools are that have, wooded around. They're wooded or they're wet, and so that attracts. And so I know Matt was out with the company today. It's funny that you asked that.
I noticed the black flies on my walk this morning.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Thank you. Other questions or? Thank you, Superintendent. Next up, item number 8 is a report on the Finance Committee for the meeting of April 12th. Chairperson Walsh, would you like to comment on that?
The Finance Committee met to get a briefing from the superintendent and staff about how we have used and plan to use the first 3 rounds of federal funding, the CARES Act money, the money the state allocated from the CARES Act to school districts, and the ESSER II money. And I think we're going to be hearing more about the specifics of the summer school program at the instructional committee this week, but most of it was invested in making remote education work, the first round, and safety measures and things like tents. And we did not have any motions to bring forward.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Any questions with regards to this committee report? Okay, not seeing any. Ms. Cannon, Communications and Policy.
Yes, the Communications and Policy Committee met, and we reviewed several policies that were proposed. They need to be updated. We're always updating the policies. They need to be updated pursuant to both law, and the New Hampshire School Board Association strongly recommended that we update some of our policies. So we were looking at policy 520, and it's complicated because there are different sections in the policy manual that relate to certain things, and so we're trying to make it more user-friendly and moving some policies from this section over here to this section over there so that they can be found better and it's a better flow. So we're going to move policy 520 over to policy 200. We're combining it with, policy 750. So we're trying to get all the safety policies together instead of being in various different places in the policy manual. And it needs to be revised pursuant to the state law as well as the recommendation by the New Hampshire School Board Association. At this point, we decided that we were still really working through the details of these policies, so we did not want to bring any of those policies forward to the committee just yet. We also have 2 policies that are in front of the board for the second reading, which it's included in your board packet, the policy 302 for authorized signatures, and policy 517, which we spoke about last meeting, about the manifest educational hardship and how we're pursuant to a change in the law, we have to tighten up some of the time restrictions of when things have to be filed or responded to. So we had brought that forward for a first reading last meeting. We're bringing it forward for a second reading this meeting. And I'd like to ask us to motion to bring those forward to a vote. And then whether those pass or they don't pass, we can go back and talk about the other big piece that we went through at the policy committee meeting, which was the suicide prevention plan. So I guess I'm looking for someone to move whether or not to accept policy 302 authorized signature.
So I'm assuming that everyone has had an opportunity to read through 302, again, authorized signatures. And as a member of the committee, I am happy to make a motion that we approve policy 302, authorized signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hastings. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. Ms. Cannon, will you please call the vote for that? Policy 302.
Yes. Ms. Hastings?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Mr. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg?
Aye.
Ms. West?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So that's 8-0.
The policy is adopted. Now I believe it's policy 517 for second reading, which is a change of school or assignment, best interest and manifest educational hardship. Assuming that everyone has had an opportunity to read through that policy, and with that, not seeing anyone else, as a member of the committee, I'll bring that forward and make a motion to approve policy 517. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Smith. Do we have any discussion? Not seeing any. Ms. Cannon, will you call this vote?
Ms. Hastings?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Mr. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg?
Aye.
Ms. West?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So that is approved and adopted. So one of the important chunks of the policy committee meeting was the suicide prevention plan. If you'll recall, we had to create a suicide policy, and part of that policy was that the school board or the administration would create a suicide prevention plan. The policy had to come first and the plan sort of second. And so the superintendent and the assistant superintendent both did a fabulous job in putting together really the bones of the suicide prevention plan. There are still some things that need to be flushed out. Superintendent Murphy or Assistant Superintendent Pally, do either one of you want to speak to the suicide plan? Or let me just...
Well, we convened a group of mostly clinicians, had advice from NAMI, and also have the assistant director of the children's program at Riverbend as part of the team. And the group has been working for several months to develop this plan. It's quite comprehensive. It has a pretty significant explication of the concerns and needs and expectations around working with and preventing suicide, and then in the event of a suicide response plans for those, and they're tailored to individual levels, and it includes assessment screenings and protocols, and it's quite intensive. We're still working on it, and hopefully you'll see it very soon.
One of the things I do want to point out is that I think our proposed handbook or plan at this point is some 50 pages long. The draft proposal from the New Hampshire School Board Association, the only other school that's put together a plan is 2 pages long. So our district is doing, in my opinion, an absolutely phenomenal job at trying to put together a very, very helpful, powerful, supportive plan for our students. And I want to thank the administration for the work that they've done doing that. Mr. Richards.
And I will just follow up on that, Ms. Cannon, as anyone who has an opportunity to see that committee meeting or to read the minutes, I was most impressed with. I know there is still work to be done, but this was a very, very well thought out, very well researched and plan, and I was very much encouraged to see how thorough they were And personally, I feel that we're a model for the rest of the state on this plan. So I'd like to thank all of the people, and I know there were a lot of people that worked on it, especially Ms. Pally, who led this effort, because it was a very good plan.
And that was pretty much the committee.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cannon. Next item up is the negotiations. The negotiations committee met on April 19th. Mr. Dunn or Mr. Prince, do we have a summary or anything that you would like to present with regards to that?
That's all right. Sure. So for the two agreements for you tonight, the first one is food service. This is a 3-year agreement. The new money is a little over $56,000 over 3 years. There's a new provision that begins in year 2 that will add some longevity payments for people with 5 to 9 years, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, and 20 plus years, ranging from $500 up to $1,600. The current provision is 10 to 19 and 20 plus years. There will also be a hiring cap on not hiring above step 8 for food service assistants, but there is no hiring cap for head cooks. That was most of what was in that agreement. Again, we appreciated the work that negotiations group did representing the food service group. So that's one. Do you want to vote on these separately?
I would like to vote on them separately,
Okay.
Mr. Dunn, and may I ask, has the food service group approved for this?
They're meeting Wednesday, so you'd be voting contingent on their ratification.
Certainly. Thank you very much for that clarification, Mr. Prince. So so I guess I would make the motion that we approve this contract contingent on their ratification. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Cannon. Discussion or questions? Ms. Walsh.
Is this in our packet?
I don't see it in our packet. Mr. Dunn, is there a position where we can review this? Is it printed in our packet at all?
This was handed out in the negotiations committee. We could scan it in and drop it in your folder. I can do that when I'm finished, or if you want to wait on this, it's up to you.
I think Ms. Walsh brings up a good point that I would like to have this available for the public to read, in addition to the detailed reading by the remainder of the school board. So with that, I would like to, in that case, I would like to withdraw my motion. And can we put both of these agreements in a packet and that can be posted, and hold off on approval until our next meeting? Is that possible?
Yeah, we'll probably wind up setting up a special board meeting, just
Okay.
because our next meeting is June whatever, and we got to start getting contracts out. And
So I guess I'm asking other board members for their input, but I would not be adverse to Chris scheduling a special board meeting along with one of our other items to be able to do this. What's anyone else's opinion?
Don't we already have one scheduled?
there's one at the end of this month, yeah.
So there is one scheduled at the end of this month that we could, and we would be able to add that on?
I think we'll see after the ratifications happen whether we need to speed it up or not,
Okay.
because of contract issuance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dunn. Other questions? How does anyone else feel with regards to this? Because I guess I'm withdrawing my motion, so.
And I think, I'm not a Robert's Rules of Order geek yet, but I think I have to agree with you.
I think you do.
I do.
Okay. In that case, Mr. Weinberg.
When do the teachers ratify?
Tomorrow. They're planning a vote tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Mr. Dunn, when do you think you'd be able to have these posted in a place that would be available to the public as well?
We'll do it for you tomorrow morning.
Very good, thank you.
All right.
And then we look forward to, let us know with regards to when you need us to take a look at that.
Will do.
All right?
Good.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? With that, I'll move on to the Capital Facilities meeting of April 21st. Ms. Smith.
All right. April 21st, the Capital Facilities Committee met. We were introduced to HMFH Architects. This is the firm that helped design Abbott Downing, Krista McAuliffe, and I have MB, all I can think of is Market Basket, Millbrook. They showed us some of their work samples for some of the upper schools, the middle schools. It was really exciting, I think, to take a look at what the future of Runlet could be just through some of those images. It was really exciting. We reviewed some of the key concepts of the study and a timeline to sort of complete those things. Number one really being, as Mr. Schweiker mentioned earlier this evening, whether or not we would include fifth grade in the new design. They are taking the lead to set up those sessions with teachers, students, the public. As Superintendent Murphy mentioned earlier, they've really got the ball rolling with that, and we'll be doing that over the next month or so. And they're going to help us determine what the best option for the Concord community will be, which is exciting to see. We didn't have any recommendation to bring forward to the full board. We did vote as a committee to ask administration to move forward with scheduling those meetings and getting that timeline underway to get this going. And that is it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, Ms. Walsh.
Just wondering if we could post the presentation in the middle school section of the website, that slideshow. I think that'd be helpful before the public starts being invited to meetings.
It's a good idea.
Mr. Cashman, you're nodding. I assume that is not a problem. And Principal Fitzgerald is nodding as well, so I take that that'll be done relatively soon. Very good. Other comments or questions? Not seeing any. Thank you, Ms. Smith. And we will move on to a report on the CPAC meeting and the Special Education Parent Advisory Council and a report. Who will be making that presentation tonight?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Gannon, thank you.
Forced into duty. We had a meeting via Zoom that was pretty well attended. I think there were 45, 50 attendees to the Zoom meeting, where the discussion was pretty broad-ranging about what people wanted the CPAC to be able to do and sort of what their aspirations for what this council could be and could do. At this point, it's still very preliminary. Mr. Belmont has posted a bunch of guidance or proposed guidelines on the school website for people to look at, for parents, and at this point, really nothing has been decided. We just had a really sort of broad-ranging Zoom meeting about what the potential for the CPAC could be. So that's sort of where we are.
Okay. Thank you very much. I was able to sit in on some of that meeting, and I was very much encouraged by the participation of the parents and those members of the community. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Cannon with regards to the CPAC meeting? Okay, thank you, Ms. Cannon. The Ad Hoc Committee on Anti-Racism and Discrimination had a meeting on April 13th. Ms. West or Mr. Weinberg, will you be, or Ms. Higgins? I'm not sure. I doubt Ms. Higgins will be available to do that. Can someone make a report on that one, please?
You can do that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. West.
We started the meeting by making space for the Asian and Pacific Islander community, really talking about the events that have happened and the increase in anti-Asian hate, and just taking time to really sit with that. And then we went over in small groups microaggressions, what they are, examples of them, and essentially talking about how microaggressions permeate our culture as a society, and talking about ways that we can address and change that behavior. We also touched on matrix that is the basis of the work for the committee, that has, curriculum overhaul and restorative practices and guidance for the hopes for the committee and the work that we're going to be doing. And we also spoke about the student and alumni. I wrote down demands here, but it's it was a list of demands that relate to anti-racism from students themselves, and we took the time to talk about and acknowledge that and work towards refocusing on those demands and making sure that the student voice continues to be heard in the meetings. And then lastly, it was brought to the committee's attention that there is going to be the task force, the discipline task force, and that this committee will participate in some form.
Very good. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or discussion points for Ms. West? Thank you, and we look forward to hearing more as the committee continues to meet. And I'm sure that in the future we'll be looking, I guess my curiosity is as to how we will share some of these there was pretty substantial amount of items covered during that meeting from your report. And I'm looking forward as to how we will share that with the greater school and Concord community. And I don't know if they have plans yet, but I'm sure that's something that will be discussed soon. Mr. Weinberg.
Tangentially related, I participated in a restorative justice training at the high school. That was wonderful, and I feel highly encouraged by the restorative justice programming that's been going on in the district.
Thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Can you tell me or tell us who participated in that restorative justice committee?
Definitely. So it was about a group of 15 to 17 faculty, a couple administrators, and what we were doing was talking circles. So in restorative justice, it's kind of small group, just for individuals to try and get to know each other on a deeper level, and this is kind of fundamental to restorative justice as a whole. I'm probably not the best to kind of go into great detail, as I don't know, but all I can say, it was very powerful, and everyone who participated was very engaged. And although it was kind of their first time engaging in that manner, people were comfortable with it and seemed up for incorporating it into their classrooms when the time will come.
Okay, thank you very much. And I hope that we will see many of the people on both the committee that you participated in, as well as the anti-discrimination committee, as we gather to meet for our disciplinary task force. And I look forward to that in the coming months. Superintendent, do you have anything else you wanted to add to that? Or I think that covered a tremendous amount. Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Weinberg, and thank you, Ms. West, for the report. The next item on the agenda is the House Bill 544 discussion. Which of our members would like to present or discuss that? Ms. West.
I can start by reading the statement that I'd like to put forth to the board to vote on. The statement is, we, the Concord School Board, stand in opposition to House Bill 544, language of which was passed through House Bill 2. House Bill 544 would prevent our public schools from teaching about systemic racism and gender bias. As a school district, we encourage students to critically analyze the world around them and learn the ways racism and sexism are interwoven into our systems and culture so that, as a community, we can work together to end the cycles of these inequities.
And that is a motion for the board to put that statement out. So with that, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Weinberg. Is there discussion? Yes, Mr. Weinberg.
So kind of, or Ms. West, would you like to give background on HB 544? So HB 544 was originally discussed in this New Hampshire Senate. The name of the bill is relative to banning divisive concepts, and under the guise of divisive concepts include acknowledging systemic racism, kind of implicit bias training that individuals possess implicit biases. And what this bill seeks to do is ban state contractors from implementing these types of trainings or teaching of this sort. And this is highly interwoven with district funding. So as we've had trainings regarding implicit bias, that would mean it would conflict with funding if this were to pass through.
Okay. Questions or other discussion comments? Yes, Ms. Cannon.
Yeah, I'd like to comment. I have difficulty seeing us as a board that makes sort of political statements, because we need to represent everybody in our community. That having been said, I think that this particular bill is one of the most heinous anti-education commentaries that I have seen. I don't know how any educational body you can't discuss history. History can no longer be taught if this passes, or 90% of history cannot be taught. We can't teach about World War II because racism was involved in World War II. We can't talk about the Civil War. We can't talk about the Revolutionary War. We can't talk about the slave trade. We can't talk about the rum trade. We can't talk about the founding of this country. We can't talk about the drafting of the Constitution. We can't teach. We cannot teach like that. The fundamental, we can't teach civics. We can't, it's just mind-boggling to me. The fundamental purpose, supposedly, of public education, if I understand it correctly, was to educate our population to be vital, informed, participatory citizens. And if we cannot have discussions about anything, we can't educate our students. If I can't have a conversation, regardless of whether it's racism or sexism or my view of what happened in World War II versus your view of what happened and what caused the Civil War, or if we can't have conversations, we cannot educate our children. You and I may not agree. People disagree about things all the time. But if you can't have the conversation, you cannot educate our youth.
Thank you, Ms. Cannon. Other discussion comments? Mr. Weinberg.
The hearing for HB 544, it will not have like a separate hearing since the language is in the budget. The budget hearing will be tomorrow at 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. So if you would like to speak on this matter, that would be the time. Yes.
So Jonathan, if one is fundamentally opposed to this language, one has to vote against the budget?
One would have to vote down the entire budget, and that's why,
Okay.
if you'd like to have verbal testimony or written testimony, you can send in what specific portions of the budget you dislike.
Thank you.
Or like, for that matter.
Other discussion comments? Not seeing any. Ms. Cannon, will you call a vote?
Absolutely. Ms. Hastings?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Mr. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg?
Aye.
Ms. West?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you. Next item is a proposed calendar of meetings. Superintendent, will you be presenting that?
I will. Again, I think it's in your packet, your May schedule. On Wednesday, I alluded to that. There'll be an instructional meeting. Next week on Wednesday, we'll have our communication and policy. We have some new policies to look at. Next week, we're particularly focusing on the discipline policy, which we'd like to bring to you. That'll take some time. It's pretty comprehensive. The following week, we have capital facilities and community relations, and the reason that's together is the Community Relations Committee really wants to be involved, wants to be part of the understanding about the project, the Runlet Middle School project, so we're going to bring those two committees together on the 19th. On the 24th is your executive committee to set your calendar, your agenda, for the June meeting. Negotiations, we have it in there just in case we weren't sure. We do have one more contract that's still being deliberated. That would be the CEOPA contract. I have to put in a good word for Jack and Larry and folks that were doing negotiations. They've done a wonderful job. I mean, they really have. They've really moved these issues forward, and so I appreciate that. And then a special board meeting on the 24th to approve several issues we wanted to talk about. One was we probably would do this in non-public, but around land options, because that's part of the facilities discussion. Also, if we have contracts, we can approve those for you. And we also receive communication from the folks in Peterborough that have petitioned the Supreme Court around adequacy funding for public schools. As you know, the Supreme Court turned their plea around and sent it back to a lower court. They're reaching out to the school districts again to see if anyone's interested in joining that in order to help the state better understand the adequacy needs of our public schools. So I'll have that information in a packet for you prior to the meeting. And of course, we'll celebrate all of our service people who gave their lives for us on Memorial Day, the 31st. In June, it's a busy month, lots of celebrations, right, ladies? Okay, just checking. And we have the chair of the Communication Policy Committee asked for 2 meetings to try to catch up on some of our work. So we do have 2 communication policy meetings in June, instructional committee meeting. Also, as we prepare for summer and fall, we'd like to be able to update that. We have, in the week of the 14th, we have capital facilities. Our second communication and policy. As you know, the prom is on the 17th. I know the students have done a fabulous job at preparing for that. And I know that some schools decided not to have a prom this year, but it was really nice to see the work that the students did to have that special occasion. Graduation, 10:30 at the field. I'll get more information as they feed it to me, Michael and his team. And last but not least, the last week in June will be an executive committee and community relations. So you do have a busy month.
Any questions? Superintendent, looking at graduation, are you looking at one ceremony?
That's what I understand right now, is one ceremony in the field together and with all the distancing and appropriate protocols in place, and they're working on that right now.
Okay, and I
think
know
the
the parents
students
will be asking about family members,
Tickets.
so when can they expect to see some plans?
I'm going to turn my shoulder over to our
I see Mr.
principal, and I
Reardon
think
right
he will
there,
give you the
so-
details that I don't have yet.
I apologize, Mr. Reardon, you almost got through the meeting without having to come to address us, but
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I was just dozing off up there when I heard my name called. So we are definitely thinking about, in fact, we're not thinking about, we're going to have a single ceremony under 3-foot distancing. I think we're probably, Kathleen, looking more towards 9:30 rather than 10:30, just to avoid it being too hot during that day. We're meeting with the music department. We'd like to have the band come back in their full regalia this year, if we can do that. The big issue Mr. Richards alluded to already is whether we can have each graduate with more than 2 parents or family members to view the ceremony in person. So as he did last year, our architecture teacher, George Golden, is going to do some pretty precise mathematical work. We'll have the tents on the field. Obviously, we'll have the entire senior class on the field, the band. So we kind of have to figure out how much space is left on the field, plus how we can utilize the bleachers, perhaps including the visiting bleachers on the other side of the field. You know, another factor to be totally open with this is that that's not, nor should it be, a secure facility. I mean, people can stream in from multiple directions to get into that, so we kind of have to take that into consideration. Clearly, we don't want to deny entry to any family member to the graduation of our seniors, but we also, this year especially, have to weigh that with the obvious safety factors. So that's kind of what we're wrestling with right now. But the day is going to be a single ceremony, barring some cataclysmic event. I think it's important that we do that. Same reason we're doing it with the prom. We need to get back to normal. We have to get back to a more stable and traditional environment. So we're working assiduously with those to get answers for everybody on those issues. We'll talk a little bit about it Wednesday night at the instructional committee as well.
thank you, Mr. Reardon, for the update, and we look forward to hearing more. I'm sure the family members and students appreciated that. The next item on the agenda is public comment on any subject. Before I ask for anyone else, I have a letter from a student that I'd like to bring forth. She asked me to bring it to the board. She asked me in person when I was visiting the Krista McAuliffe School, and unfortunately I don't have her last name, but her first name is Angel. She's a 4th grader at Krista McAuliffe School. If Principal Gallo is here and wants to contribute her last name, that's fine, but I can just go with Angel. She asked the request to please add more items to the playground at the school that are geared to the older students. It's important to have outdoor equipment, and during this past year, it's actually a life-saving thing, she said. Having outside equipment geared to older students, she personally revealed, would help her get an A+. And I believe that very much. Physical activity is very much tied to their ability to learn. Angel went further to actually help us a little bit by suggesting more swings, a deep, long slide, The next item, which Principal Gallo says is the top item requested by all the students there, which is a zip line. I'm not quite sure that that's possible, but I appreciate their input. A little bit more field room to play soccer, places to walk, places to draw, and a trampoline, which I'm not certain we're going to be able to accommodate. But I had to admire her. When she came up, she was very eloquent and very, she had clearly thought this through as she talked to me, and she was very passionate in her plea. I'm sure that both the principal and superintendent remember her. So I would like to ask the superintendent, would you please ask Mr. Cashman to meet with Principal Gallo and to take a look at this as we come into our next, allocation of funding. And I do have to say I was most impressed during my visit to the school, and I would suggest that you discuss it with the physical education teacher. He seemed to have put together at the day we were there, unfortunately I was talking with Principal Gallo, so I didn't get to get as involved, but the PE activities they were doing actually had the superintendent and Mr. Cashman trying to participate along with the kids, because it was I was just very much impressed. It was not only a physical activity, but involved teamwork, some geometry and structural STEM type of basics, and a lot of cooperation, and I was most impressed by that class. The kids were really into it, so I'm sure he could provide some suggestions as well. But I would like to thank Angel for coming up to me and bringing this to our attention. So,
hi, Jim. This is Chris Gallo. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chris, we can hear you.
Hi. Angel will be thrilled to know that her letter made it to a board meeting. She has asked me every day if I've heard back from you, and her last name is Massacoy.
Well, Angel Massacoy should be, her family and parents should be very proud of her, and her teachers as well, because she was very eloquent and did a great job coming up to me to make her point with regards to the physical education needs and the playground needs at your school. So please thank her again. Please thank her again.
I will.
Mr. Weinberg, you had a question.
Could we make sure if Mr. Cashman is meeting with Ms. Gallo about Chris McAuliffe that we're looking at Abbott Downing, Millbrook, and Beaver Meadow as well?
That as well, and also I would like to point out that we want to make sure that anything that we look into is universally accessible for all of our students. But once again, I think it was a great idea to be brought forth to us. I don't think anyone knows about the playground equipment better than the students at the schools. So, yes, let's take a look at, the schools are 10 years old, believe it or not, and it's probably a good time to take a look at could we improve them. And thank you again, Principal Gallo, for allowing me to come through the school. You're welcome. Anyone else have any questions? In that case, does anyone here in the auditorium have any public comment on any subject? Not seeing anyone. Mr. Dunn, could you open up any online comment on any subject?
Yep. There's okay, we have one. Michael Macri, go ahead and lower your hand, unmute yourself, state your name and where you're from.
Hi, it's Mike Macri. I live at 45 Millstone Drive in Concord. I'm a teacher at Broken Ground School. I'm also the president of the Concord Education Association. The only reason I'm speaking right now is I just want to remind the board that we do have a ratification meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 3:45. I am hopeful that the negotiated settlement will be approved, but I also want to encourage the board to meet as soon as they can after our ratification meeting, because as most of you know, the deadline for contracts was April 15th, so we're way past that date right now. And one way you want to reward teachers right now is to put a contract in their hands. So I know Larry and I had talked about possibly trying to get things going out on Friday electronically. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but I would like to encourage the board to meet as soon as you can after we ratify. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Macri. I will redirect that to Superintendent Mr. Dunn. Please take a look at our calendar, and I think most of the board members are willing to be flexible on a special meeting to address that.
Great.
Go ahead, Superintendent.
I would agree with Michael Macri. I think that we want to be able to put their contracts together and get them in their hands. That's really important to them. I'm wondering if you wouldn't like to schedule a special board meeting on the 5th, right before the instructional meeting, maybe at 5 o'clock. I mean, I don't imagine that you'll have a long deliberations. You've already seen the negotiations committee has seen these contracts, so it's not like totally brand new to everyone. I would like to be able to do that. That way Larry and his team can get right on printing and getting those contracts ready.
Okay.
Is that
I'm fine with that because I'm on the negotiations committee, so I've seen the contract. But I will defer to the other board members. Does that give you enough time to review? Ms. Hastings.
Would this be in place of the special board meeting that's already scheduled for the 24th?
Right. I wouldn't need. That's really late, in terms of getting these contracts out.
Remember, we still have
some other topics.
Right, that's true. We saved that for the COPA because we knew that was still coming. And there were a couple of other issues. Thanks, Jack. There were a couple of other issues that I wanted to talk to you about too. Remember land and the adequacy lawsuit, which needs time to discuss.
So does everyone feel like if Mr. Dunn can post those where we'll be able to see them tomorrow, that Wednesday would be an adequate time for us to meet? You would have adequate view. Ms. Walsh.
That's fine with me. They'll be posted so the public can see them as well, right?
It is my understanding that that would be posted to the website. Am I correct? Yes. Thank you. So yes, the public would have an opportunity to view that starting tomorrow, and then be able to make any comments or public comment on Wednesday evening. Anyone else have any questions? Go ahead.
So Jim, are we scheduling that meeting?
I guess that's my question, and I guess I'll put it to just a simple vote with regards to scheduling a special meeting either before or after the instructional meeting associated with that to be able to review these contracts. Mr. Dunn, do you have?
No, I'm assuming we're doing food service too. Food service as well?
Food service as well.
Yeah.
Those two contracts that are there. Superintendent, is that doable?
I think so.
Just a general vote of everyone. Is everybody okay with that? If you're in favor of Wednesday evening, just raise your hand. I don't see anybody who's not.
5 o'clock.
Ms. Higgins, are you able to attend a Wednesday meeting in addition to the instructional meeting to take a look at these contracts?
I sure am. Yep.
Okay. What time would we like to have that? The current meeting would be at 5:30 for the instructional committee. Do we want to push that meeting to 6 and make the 5:30 the special meeting, or would you do it after?
Is that better for you?
That sounds like a good idea. Then we're not rushing through anything instructional committee-wise and making the other meeting happen late.
So is it possible for us to have our special meeting at 5:30? I don't believe it'll take too long. And then have the instructional meeting at 6 p.m.? This would be in the boardroom at Central Office.
Yes. Exactly.
And I think everybody indicated they could attend that. So if you could do that?
Yep.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Very good. Okay. Thank you to the instructional committee for their flexibility on this and allowing us to piggyback on that one, and I think that will. I understand the desire and the concerns for the that Mr. Macri brought out, so I think this hopefully will address that. Mr. Dunn, is there any other public comment?
No.
Okay. Anyone who would like to make a public comment on any topic can do so now, and we'll wait a minute or two to see for the delay and see if anybody comes up.
So far, no one.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dunn. And as always, anyone who wishes to, write an email to the board is more than welcome to do so. Will we read that? That's at, let me say, is that concordinfo@sau8.org. Thank you. All right, Superintendent, do we have a need for non-public session this evening? No? Then, with no need for a non-public session, if there is no further business for the board, yes, Ms. Walsh.
This is more a request to the policy committee, and I know you have a lot on your plate, but I think it would be really helpful, or I would find it helpful, if we could relook at policy 132, which is about the agenda preparation and dissemination. In particular, we have a requirement that the agenda be made public 3 days before, but not the items that are coming up for votes. And I think it's important that members of the public have access to the same information that we do when they're being asked to potentially comment on things.
Okay, so I'd agree. Can we redirect that to the Communications and Policy for review?
Absolutely look at any policy any board member wants me to.
Okay. Then add that to your list, Ms. Cannon.
I will add that to my scroll.
Thank you. Is there any other business from the board? Not seeing any, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn, and I'm making my motion from the Merritt Parkway, Connecticut. A 3-state school board meeting for me.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. So Ms. Higgins makes the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Smith. On this one, we do not need a roll call, so I will just say all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned. Have a good night.